Greetings, explorer of YouTube lands. Thrilled to see you on my channel. New around here? Subscribe, share with your friends, and help me keep this adventure alive. Don't forget to comment your city or country. I read every single one like a treasure map. All right, adventure begins. We'd been husband and wife for 33 years. We're both 55 now. I'm a man, and she was my partner through it all. Together, we raised 2 children and now have the joy of being grandparents to 2 wonderful little ones. Our story began in the 1980s, inside a nightclub where I worked security. We went on a date, then another, and within 2 months, we were living under the same roof. 2 years later, we were married. Life moved steadily. Work, fun, family. Eventually, I moved into a less active line of work, and my lifestyle slowed down. I gained a lot of weight, so much that intimacy became nearly impossible. Asthma attacks would interrupt us before I could finish. We tried to find ways to bring our sex life back to life, and we always stayed faithful. For me, loyalty wasn't negotiable. I'd been cheated on before, and she knew it was something I couldn't tolerate. We believed in each other deeply, and I truly thought we'd grow old side by side. 33 years is no small stretch, but the strange part is, my love for her only deepened over time. After more than 20 years of near non-existent intimacy, I decided to take control of my health. I spent 2 years losing 176 pounds and eventually underwent surgery to remove the excess skin. It may sound superficial, but I had 3 real reasons. First, I wanted to live long enough to see my grandkids grow up. Second, I wanted to reclaim my body and health. And third, I hoped it might reignite the physical side of our marriage. It worked. For the past few years, we had been having sex 3 or 4 times a week. She seemed to enjoy it as much as I did. Her body always told the truth. It seemed like we were on the right path again. She kept telling me that she still loved me, and I believed her because I felt the same way. I had never cheated on her, and I was confident that she had not either. At least, that's what I thought until 3 days passed. She had gone on a short trip with her 2 sisters. They went out of state to get some rest. I didn't think twice. I trusted her completely. She knew that infidelity was the one thing I would never forgive. This line was never crossed. We had no secrets. We shared phone passwords, had access to each other's emails, and knew each other's locations. It wasn't out of mistrust, but simply for the sake of security and transparency. After shedding the weight, I began drawing attention from other women, but I never entertained it. I was a loyal husband. She did admit to feeling a bit insecure at times. She'd gained weight and noticed the way others looked at me. But I never saw anyone but her. I reminded her constantly how much I loved her, how beautiful I thought she was, how lucky I felt to be her husband. Our renewed sex life was amazing, and I only wished we'd fixed things sooner. But then came the call, 3 days ago. I was driving home from work when she phoned. Her voice trembled. She asked if her sister had spoken to me. I told her no, confused. I asked what was going on. I had no idea what was coming. Then she told me. She had cheated. She slept with another man. Her voice broke. She kept repeating that she didn't know what got into her, that she was sorry, so sorry. I sat frozen in my car, too stunned to move. She started explaining. She and her sisters were drinking at the hotel bar. At some point, a married couple joined them. They all kept drinking together late into the night, until around 2 a.m. Her sisters left early and returned to their room, but she stayed behind, still chatting and drinking with the couple. She said she was drunk, and they were showering her with compliments, telling her she was sexy, that her husband must be incredibly lucky. Then, according to her, they invited her to their room to continue drinking. The situation quickly escalated. The man began touching her, and the woman encouraged them both. They told her that no one would ever find out, and that she should just enjoy herself. She said it felt like an out-of-body experience, as if she was not in control of her own body. However, she went through with it and engaged in intimate activities with the man in front of his wife. She woke up the next morning in bed with both of them. Horrified, she rushed back to her room. One of her sisters saw her come in and immediately demanded to know what happened. She broke down and confessed it all. Her sister told her flatly, either she tells me or the sister would. So she called me, crying, desperate, begging for forgiveness. I sat there silent, unable to process what she was telling me. 33 years, gone in a flash. Through her sobs, she kept insisting she loved me, that she hated herself for what she'd done, that she was full of shame and regret. I finally told her that this wasn't some accident. It was a deliberate decision. Then I hung up and turned off my phone. Back home, I sat in the quiet, trying to accept what had just happened. I cried, for the woman I thought she was, for the life we built together, for the future that had just evaporated. Everything we'd dreamed about was gone, just like that. I didn't speak to anyone or turn my phone back on for 2 full days. When I finally powered it up, there were messages, hundreds, from her sisters. One of the latest said she was driving back home. My kids had also been calling and texting. She had apparently reached out to them, frantic, trying to find out if they'd heard from me. I eventually got in touch and told them the truth. I said I was okay, all things considered, but I needed some time to be away. I explained I was leaving the house before she came back. I needed space to grieve and accept the end of my marriage. I asked them not to reveal where I'd gone. I needed to face the truth that my old life was finished. Then, I sent one final message to the woman who used to be my wife. I told her I would be filing for divorce and that I didn't want to speak again. I didn't care about the details anymore. I didn't care about her anymore. The pain ran too deep. I never knew something so meaningful could be destroyed in a single, careless night. Just a small follow-up. My thoughts are a little all over the place right now, so forgive the scattered tone. I want to clarify one thing. Our physical relationship wasn't entirely dead before the weight loss. It just felt dull in comparison to how it became later. But yes, those earlier years lacked the passion we rediscovered more recently. As for my background, I served in the military early in life. An injury during training led to a medical discharge and moved me into an administrative role. After that, my wife and I bought a small business and ran it together. Before sitting down for a direct talk with my wife, I had already held several in-depth conversations with her sister and brother-in-law. What she had told them didn't line up with her original confession to me. Our children were devastated by what had happened, but they stood firmly by my side. I made it clear to them that, even if they were angry, she remained their mother and the grandmother of their children. And no matter what damage she caused to our marriage, it didn't erase her love for them. Her sisters decided to end their trip early and returned home with her. I left her a handwritten message instructing her to gather her belongings and move in with her mother. She followed through. What surfaced later, however, was far uglier than the version she'd initially given me. She only admitted what she did because she knew the truth was about to come out, and even then, she held back. Eventually, under emotional strain, she confided the full story to her sister. Until I sat down with her face to face, I wasn't sure what to believe. But here's what her sister relayed to me. My wife claimed she still cared for me and valued the life we had built together. She said she never thought she'd do something like this. She blamed the evolution of our sex life over the past couple of years, saying it had opened a door to curiosity she hadn't previously explored. She described herself as the more attractive partner throughout our marriage, but lately, she'd begun to feel that the dynamic had changed. Her confidence was shaken, and she longed to feel wanted again, by someone unfamiliar. She insisted this was the only time she had ever been unfaithful, but admitted it was carefully planned. It was a fantasy she chose to act out, with no intention of telling me afterward. Her sisters didn't realize that the people she'd arranged to meet weren't random. They were clients from another state who had done business with us before. I had never met them in person, but she had maintained regular communication with them over the phone. She arranged to meet them for drinks, And even though her sisters were with her initially, the couple acted like strangers until the sisters departed. My wife did consume alcohol, but not to the point of losing control. The encounter had been prearranged by all three of them prior to the trip. Today, she's supposed to come by so we can talk. I've heard she's emotionally wrecked and terrified about what's coming next. But I've already made up my mind. She made her choice the moment she betrayed me, and now the consequences of that decision must play out, for her, for me, and for everyone involved. Learning the complete truth was excruciating, but it left no doubt in my mind. I didn't lie. I didn't violate my vows. I didn't coerce her into deception. If she's now afraid that she's truly lost me and our marriage, then she's right to be. Her guilt changes nothing. What's broken can't be fixed. We're done. Now we both have to adjust to this new reality. Second update. We had that talk yesterday. For most of our years together, we often said we couldn't sleep well unless we were lying side by side. That had been true, until last night. For the first time, I slept peacefully without her next to me. She showed up looking completely undone, exhausted, her face streaked with tears, eyes puffy, visibly distraught. Under normal circumstances, seeing her in that state would have broken me. I'd have wanted to hold her, to reassure her, but not this time. I was already sitting at the kitchen table when she walked in. She burst into tears and rushed toward me, trying to hug me, repeatedly apologizing, saying how horribly she had messed everything up. I raised my hand to stop her and told her not to touch me. I asked her to sit down. I offered her a cup of coffee, since I was making one for myself. She agreed, so I brought 2 mugs to the table. She kept her eyes locked on mine. As she started to speak, I cut her off immediately. I told her not to say a word unless it was in response to a direct question. I said this conversation wasn't about her pain. It was about what she had done to our life together. I told her it was over. She had already made her decision, and now it was time for me to make mine. Even though I was already firmly decided, I still wanted to hear the unfiltered truth from her. I figured she might be more forthcoming if she believed there was still some chance to reconcile. So I let her believe that. I told her I had spoken with her sister, which was true, and that I had also talked to the couple she had met up with, which I hadn't. But she didn't know that. What I felt was a strange mix, some satisfaction seeing how crushed she was, sorrow for what had been lost, a deep sense of betrayal. But above all, I stayed calm. That calmness seemed to rattle her more than anything else. The whole thing felt more like a structured interrogation than a personal conversation. I asked her how many times it had happened. She said once in person and twice through video calls. I told her to walk me through how it started. She said it started during business phone calls with flirting. Gradually, the situation escalated. After a few months, it turned into online conversations about sexual relations. My wife confessed that she had longed to be watched during intimate moments, and once the other woman said she was okay with it, the fantasy started to feel possible. After her sisters left the bar that evening, she headed straight to the hotel where the couple was staying. She cried as she described it. She said it was exciting and frightening at the same time, and that even during the act, she knew she had gone too far. When she tried to justify it by talking about her feelings of insecurity, I cut her off. I said I didn't want to hear excuses. It took her a few minutes to regain composure. I even got up to bring her tissues. Then I asked her directly if she had ever planned on telling me. She confessed that she never intended to. It was supposed to be a one-time indulgence, something she could experience and then bury, with me never finding out. I confronted her with a blunt question. Was this really the first time she'd strayed in 33 years? She swore it was. I told her it made no difference. Once or 100 times. Betrayal is betrayal, and the damage is just as permanent. I warned her that continued lies wouldn't affect me as much as they would harm her standing with our children and grandchildren. I was honest and told her I didn't believe she was telling me everything, but that it no longer mattered. That's when it hit her. I wasn't entertaining any thought of repairing our marriage. She begged me to reconsider. She pleaded for another chance. She said I could have affairs if I wanted, as long as I didn't leave. She promised she would never cheat again. But nothing she said could change what she'd already destroyed. I told her bluntly. She needed to hear the words out loud. She had already degraded herself enough. I made it clear that I would never betray a marriage. If I were ever to be with another woman, it would only be after a complete, irreversible split. But that idea wasn't even close to being on my radar. When she tried to reach for my hand, I recoiled and calmly told her she'd never feel my touch again. This isn't about judging how other people live. What consenting adults do in their own relationships is their business. I'm well aware that open marriages exist and that affairs happen, but that was never part of our story. Our relationship was grounded in trust and mutual respect, and she shattered both when she deliberately arranged to sleep with someone else. I've always viewed myself as rational, not emotional, so what I felt wasn't rage, it was a profound sense of release. I told her we would end things with as little friction as possible. She misunderstood, took that as hope. I corrected her immediately. This was final. I was resolute. She would never feel my hands on her again. The woman I once married and loved died the moment she not only cheated, but plotted it in advance. Those years we shared together, they won't be erased. I'll always remember the Christmas mornings, our first home, raising the kids, the hardships and joys. Those moments were real, but now they're only part of my history. Our paths are diverging, and truthfully, I'm looking forward to what lies ahead without her. When the time comes to meet someone new, I'll be building something without shadows of betrayal hanging over it. As I said all of this, she sat shaking, tears streaming down her face. But I felt nothing. I just wanted her gone. She clearly wasn't in the right headspace to continue the discussion, so I went outside to the shed and phoned our children. I told them the truth. They stood by me. They advised me not to let it linger, to just close the chapter. When I returned inside, she was back to pleading and apologizing, hoping to somehow fix it. I told her plainly that we'd sell both the house and the business and split everything 50-50. She could keep the car. I'd hold on to the truck and the motorcycle. The cats would go with her. I also informed her not to contact me unless it involved the kids or our grandkids. I let her know I'd be getting the lawyers involved to start the divorce process. As far as I was concerned, from that point forward, she was free to do whatever she wanted with whoever she wanted. She was no longer my wife. That hit her hard. She said she didn't want anyone else and accused me of being deliberately heartless. I told her coldly that I wasn't being cruel. I was just being honest. Her betrayal had hollowed out whatever love I once felt. I made it absolutely clear. She was entirely responsible for destroying our marriage. I had loved her deeply, without conditions. She chose to break that bond. I left to give her space to pack her belongings. I spent the next few hours at my daughter's house, catching up and playing with my granddaughter. By the time I returned home later that evening, she was gone, and for the first time in many years, I slept soundly. It's now been 5 weeks since she decided to blow up our marriage. The last month has been chaotic, but in that time, I've had space to process everything, and I'm confident I made the right decision. I couldn't possibly trust her again. The thought of being intimate with her now is nauseating. She made that choice, to violate our vows, because she thought she could get away with it. She's been staying with her mother since the split, while I've been preparing our house to go on the market. After 2 decades of living here, there was plenty to clean out, but I finished the job. The house is listed, and we already have a few serious buyers lined up. As for the business, it's already been sold. One of our longtime clients had expressed interest in expanding, and I finalized the deal just last week. The handover is scheduled for next month. Divorce isn't simple, especially here. The law requires a full year and 1 day of legal separation before filing. Even then, if no one contests it, there's still a 4-month wait before it becomes final. The division of property is handled separately and only begins after the divorce is official. My goal is to make sure everything has already been liquidated before we even reach that stage. So long as she continues signing off on the paperwork, it'll all go much smoother. My son has only spoken with her once since this all went down, and it didn't go well. Just so it's clear, both of my kids are adults, each with their own families. I told my son to take a breath. No matter how angry he is, she's still his mother, and she did love him. Don't let this betrayal erase everything she was to him growing up. My daughter has maintained occasional contact with her. She's crushed by what her mother did, but she hasn't turned her back, and my daughter doesn't sugarcoat the truth. She's told her mother exactly how much damage was caused. She's held nothing back. Meanwhile, my soon-to-be ex remains trapped in a fantasy where she thinks I'll someday forgive her. She honestly believes the years we shared will be enough to win me back. When she came over to sign the real estate paperwork, she looked me in the eye and said she still believed I loved her, that we were meant to grow old together, that this was just a temporary setback. She truly thought we could recover from all of this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked her in the face and told her she was absolutely delusional. She had lied. She had cheated in a way that defied comprehension. She welcomed another man into her bed and even performed oral sex on him while his wife watched. How could she think I'd ever want her back after that? She said she regretted it, that it wasn't even worth it, that she didn't know what had come over her. But none of it matters now. The damage is permanent. I'm finished. With her, with our relationship, and with that entire chapter of my life. I cut her off mid-sentence. I didn't want to hear whether she enjoyed it or not. That was beside the point. What mattered was that she did it. I told her clearly, there's no fixing this. I'm done, and I intend to move on without her. If she thinks there's still hope, or that she holds any influence over my choices, she's lying to herself. That control is gone for good. She's the one who tore apart a marriage built on love and trust. Her deceit and selfishness are what brought us here. She knew exactly what could happen before she went through with it, so pretending to be blindsided now is absurd. The fallout she's facing is hers to own. Funny enough, women have started noticing me lately. I'm not trying to start anything new at the moment, but it's comforting to realize that when I'm ready, I won't be short on options. She even lost it when a mutual acquaintance dropped by with a home-cooked meal and stayed to chat. Just a friendly gesture, nothing more. Then she had the audacity to tell me I should get it out of my system because she'd be waiting for me on the other side. Imagine that. The only thing I want gone from my system is her presence. I'm working through a mess of emotions, anger, grief, disgust, and a deep sense of betrayal. But I haven't lost my footing. My attention now is on disentangling every financial connection between us and laying the groundwork for my new beginning. This is the final act. The house is sold, so is the company. After splitting the proceeds, I had enough to buy 2 modest homes, each in a different city where one of my grandchildren lives. My son and daughter have each built their own lives in separate states. That setup wasn't accidental. I wanted to create space for myself while staying close enough to see the kids when I choose to. I haven't retired either. An old competitor in my field offered me a flexible part-time role, and I took it. The work is light, and it leaves me with plenty of freedom to enjoy life again. When I had a few weeks free, I hit the road on my motorcycle without an itinerary. I followed the wind, stopped when I felt like it, grabbed coffee at roadside cafes, explored small towns, and wrapped up each evening in a quiet bar with a drink or two before riding on the next morning. What surprised me most was how much I enjoyed the freedom and how much the dating landscape has changed. I met a few women on that ride. No promises, no attachments, just laughter, easy conversations, and physical connection without complications. No messy entanglements. To my surprise, I found myself at peace. A few people have asked whether I ever confronted the people my wife cheated with. The truth? I never bothered, and I won't. They're irrelevant. It was her betrayal that destroyed the marriage. They were side characters in a decision she made alone. For me, the most powerful revenge is simply not caring. No confrontations, just walking away. Sure, the betrayal crosses my mind now and then, but I refuse to let it define me. My energy is invested in becoming whole again. Apparently, she still believes that once I feel lonely or nostalgic, I'll come crawling back. I've told her, repeatedly and without hesitation, that we're finished. For good. I don't care who she sees or what she does. That chapter is closed, and so is her access to my life. My daughter mentioned that her mom is full of regret and feels humiliated by the outcome. She even asked my daughter to speak on her behalf, but I told her not to waste her breath. Her remorse doesn't come from hurting me. It's because she got caught, and I actually walked away. This may not have been the future I envisioned, but for the first time in years, I feel genuinely hopeful about what lies ahead.